And so it came to pass. The pandemic of 2020 and 2021 still continues.
And 2022 and
And
2023.
2023. This is Jaboy Carlos.
And I guess this is your boy Dave.
Yeah, that's right. This is Two Fat Guys Talk, the podcast, episode 129. It's everyone's favorite game show. Why did Lake Superior State University put this on their list of banned words?
Oh God.
Yeah. I'm Carlos Faro. I'm your host today, and we have a very interesting contestant. He's a snake eater. He's a tree uprooter. If he is the unstoppable force that tears through all immovable objects. Please welcome to the show, Dave.
Woo!
Yeah, Dave. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself in 3 words. Excellent. So, here's how the game is played. I, your handsome host, am going to tell you a word on Lake Superior State University's 2021 banished words list. And what you're going to do, Dave, is you're going to tell me roughly, it can be in the ballpark, why it's on the list. Do so and you win points. Are you ready to play?
Let's do this.
Okay. The first word on the list is COVID-19. COVID-19.
This is probably on the list because people have gotten tired of hearing about COVID-19, and if they have to actually acknowledge that COVID-19 existed, they would have to actually face the facts that they ignored it the whole time and allowed their campus to become rampantly infected.
Now, Dave, you kind of meta answered the question in that you provided the real reason they put it on the list and not the reason they say it's on the list. So even though this doesn't usually happen in game shows, I'm going to have to ask you to be less specific, please.
Wow. Yeah. Well, seeing as I don't have the site up and I haven't actually read any of it, I'm gonna stick by my answer, Mr. Announcer.
Judges, and they're giving me the finger, which means you are correct.
Yeah!
They apparently many of the nominators are resentful of how the virus has overtaken their vocabulary, and that since a vaccine has pretty much happened, because as we all know, there's been no complications with that. It's on the list of banned words. Now, Dave, would you like the next word on the list or a random word on the list?
Let's go random. Let's really mess this up.
Very well. Oh, you're gonna love this one.
Oh, great.
The next word on the list is Karen.
Oh.
Karen is the next word.
Oh my God.
Karen.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to go with they want this one gone because too many of their board members are Karens and believe that they should have the ability to attack anybody who isn't white, as well as go into stores not wearing face masks and just generally be very not nice individuals.
Now, Dave, once again, I'm going to have to ask you to give me the answer they say it's on the list and not the real reason we all know they put it on there.
Now, I am sorry, Mr. Announcer, but I can't dumb down my intellect to that level and not give the real reason. I mean, I don't know what stupid shit they're trying to justify. They're probably saying, oh, well, you shouldn't use Karen because it's racist against women because you're calling them out.
And you got it right.
Of course I fucking
That one
did.
was worth double points, so now you get 3 points.
Woohoo! What's next?
You want another word? I thought you would have been sick of this by now.
Let's do one more.
One more? Or do you want to do a lightning round?
Ooh, I'm in.
All right, let's do the lightning round. Social distancing.
Of course this would be on some racist fucking university's site.
We're all in this together.
Is that their actual reason, or am I supposed to answer it?
No, this is the next word on their list.
Oh, we're all in this together.
This
Because
is the
they.
lightning round, mind you.
Oh, right. They have that one in there because they don't want to be all in it together. They want to be their racist selves.
In an abundance of caution, various phrasings.
Because they're tired of hearing people tell them that they should actually give a shit.
Sus!
Of course, that's on the list because of the game that makes. They probably just think that you shouldn't shorten suspicious because you should put in the effort.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm only going to give one more because the secret the secret behind this game is that this actually makes me way angrier. Is I know, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to admit that's just stupid enough that I don't know what their reasoning for it is.
Let me read you a little bit of their reasoning behind this one.
Oh, good God.
An amusing phrase flooding social media, I know, right, is a relatively new construction to convey empathy with those who have expressed agreement. But as one wordsmith put it, if you know, why do you need to ask if it's correct or seek further approval? Another grammarian suggested that the desire for confirmation connotes insecurity. In other words, it's reiterating something
Oh.
already seconded.
And that phrase has been used for decades.
And that's it for Guess the Words on this bullshit thing. Join us next time where Dave eats lava.
Woohoo!
This list makes me so fucking mad. This garbage educational institution has apparently been doing this since the 70s. As a writer who is actually paid good money to be good at writing, and has done various kinds of writing from technical to marketing and everything between. This article, like if I was a teacher of this would have an F with all the bullshit in it and all the jargon and words that are meant to be that are meant to mean something only to college educators who have their nose so far up their own ass they can smell their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
It is so garbage, this list. When I saw this, as a writer, as an actual paid writer who actually does know what he's doing, this offends me. And when I saw this, I'm like, I need to share this with Dave in some way.
Well, and I remember you posting a link into our group chat about it, and I took one brief look, and I'm like, no, I'm out because it's going to make me angry because for a lot of the same reasons that you're saying it angers you, because this is a faculty that's trying to decide, well, we don't want this terminology, these words of language used on our campus for our own reasons.
Oh man, uh, we I actually went and looked at some of their past words,
Oh.
and you like when you started answering a smile. I had a smile from ear to ear because obviously you are saying the real truth about
Mm-hmm.
why they're there, right? Like one of them is like one of the words is common sense. One
Really?
of them is Chad. One of them is like crotchety, doable, emotional,
Well, okay.
epic.
I I, I,
Like
I I can see why crotchety isn't on there because that basically describes their entire campus faculty.
gaming is on there.
What?
It's because it's used to make people believe that they're not actually gambling.
What?
Giant sucking sound is on their list.
That's not a word.
Yeah, I know. It's 3 words. Like
But
it's
but but giant sucking sound. Like what? What is that? What?
oh, let's look it up. It's they actually have a fairly well laid out glossary of all their fucking banned
That
words.
that
Uh
makes no sense.
hang on, let's look at Get Her Done also on the list. Giant
Te-
why can
te-
I not find it
Texans
anymore?
Texans must have been pissed at that one.
Get Her Done. Hang on, sorry. I lost track
Oh,
of where I was.
no
Giant
problem.
sucking sound. There it is. That giant sucking sound you hear is air displacement as columnists, editors, and reporters across the nation rush to their keyboards to make clever use of the phrase of the moment, giant sucking sound. Apparently submitted by, I'm not going to mention her name, but she's the publications editor of some newspaper association in California.
But I still reiterate. What the fuck are they talking about?
Well, I've seen the phrase being used, like, for example, in say a video game FAQ when you get a broken ability. I've seen the phrase being like, that giant sucking sound you heard is all the challenge being sucked out of the game.
I've
Something like that.
never heard that term ever.
Have a good one is on the list.
Oh, come on.
In other words is on the list. Influencer is on the list.
Okay, well, influencers, that I hate that whole thing, but still, you can't, just because you're a crotchety old campus does not mean that you can get her good or get her done rather, and remove terms that offend you. Like, come on.
OK Boomer was on the list last year. Oh,
Of course it
in
is.
2019, Krusty, and it was put there because obviously that the people who make this list are crusty old farts who are so out of fucking touch with anything resembling reality that their garbage institution of higher learning peddles this fucking nonsense, and people believe. This is episode 129 of Two Fat Guys Talk. I'm sorry you had to hear that bit of ugliness of me about to punch my monitor about this stupid word list.
Well, I mean, I have jokingly talked with my parents on visits back when we could actually do that, of words that have been added to the dictionary, and we've been like, really, that got added to the dictionary? But listen, I may not agree with words being added to the dictionary like that, but this list is stupid.
I have a little revelation for you that you might not want to hear. Dictionaries don't exist.
Okay, well, fair
Now,
enough.
obviously they do exist, but what I mean is that dictionaries are not dogma, and the meaning of language is flexible, right?
Hmm.
So any attempt to bar words, to me, is just as idiotic as when people don't want to let words enter the lexicon, unless there's already a perfectly good word in the lexicon and there's no real reason not to use it. But even then, again, I don't want to be a crusty old fart and make a fucking list like that,
Yeah, I get it. I do understand, and this, like, do we actually have any information whether they actually enforce this list on campus?
Man, I don't know, but I could not imagine going to a shittier school if they did. I already can't imagine going to a shitty school that does that. Watch now, we're gonna find out that the university we went to did that shit. But I could not imagine a worse educational experience, a total failure of education for their students than if they did do that.
Just
But moving on from the Lake Superior State University's trash, we are still recording from underground bunkers Zeta, Theta, Beta, Gata in the Western Hemisphere. We've patched 2 patch panels together and linked it up to Zencaster that we might speak to each other and get our message out to you, the people. Davaniel, how you been? What you been playing? Who you been doing? And all that.
oh, good God. Well, in the pandemic, of course, this is the only way that we've been able to communicate for not quite well, the pandemic's been in force for over a year now, and I think it's been about, God, what, 8 to 10 months since we've been able to actually talk in person.
It's been a bit.
It seems that we're going under, or we're going backwards rather, as far as restrictions are concerned. They're going back into more and more restrictive behavior because people just don't give a shit. And I
What are you
kind
talking about, Dave? The other day, I went to a supermarket and I saw multiple people not wearing their mask over their nose, and in one case, not wearing their mask over their anything.
well, depending on what store you're going to, some actually still do enforce that. The Sobeys over by my place actually enforces, if they see you take your mask off in store, you're asked to leave. Some stores actually still give a shit and are willing to take on the policing side of that. And that's not easy to ask your employees to have to do that.
No, and the employees should not be the ones responsible anyway.
No, they shouldn't. We're still stuck in this limbo, which is the pandemic. I get my first shot next month. So do you.
Yep. Well, this month really for me.
Oh, right, it's
Oh
May.
yeah, it is
Right.
May, so this month.
It's May 1st. Damn it. Time is
May the first be with you.
ugh.
It's yeah, I'm getting my first shot here soon too. The pandemic has not gone away. Something underground bunker, but we got to make do, right? We got to make do because we are a stupid species and we have not properly flattened any kind of curve. We've only made things worse and elected people who have also made things worse. So
I saw a really good post off of it may have been Twitter, or it may have just been a blog about how decades from now they're going to try and write in the history books that we all came together and fought the pandemic as a group.
oh yeah, no, every history book
And
is lying, and that would be no different.
if I am still alive at that time, I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that that BS does not end up in the history books.
Oh man, remember when we would sometimes read textbooks in schools about how when the Europeans came here that they worked together with the native the native people of this continent instead of being the giant massacre that really happened.
They did the footnote instead of the actual story.
Yeah, basically they Disneyfied it because the winners write the history.
Yep. Other than being in this soul-sucking environment, I have kept myself sane by reading manga, watching anime, and playing the
I've
occasional
done
game.
something similar. I've played a lot of old games via emulation. I've been playing the shit a shit ton out of SaGa Frontier Remastered, which is a remaster of one of my favorite PlayStation 1 JRPGs that is finally getting the recognition it deserves and the remaster that it sorely needed 20 years ago. I've also been keeping sane by
Mm-hmm.
not watching anime. And I gotta tell you, Dave, I feel good. I feel good
Yeah,
not
well,
watching anime. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me.
no, technically it has, except what you don't realize if you look up and you see that 50-ton block above you, that's all the stored anime I've got waiting for you once the pandemic
Now,
ends.
now, Dave, who says the pandemic's ever gonna end?
Oh, it's going to one way or another. But yeah, no, I mean, I've got some. The one label on the one side says Isekai, and the label on the other side says Isekai. Oh, wait, all the labels say Isekai.
So this is the part of the podcast where we get a little bit too real. If you are under any delusion that I'm going to watch every isekai you think is worthwhile, you are mistaken, my friend.
Uh-huh.
Because, Dave, one day we have to have an intervention on the Carlos and Dave Anime Rave about your taste and how it's become isekai is God.
Lord
Yeah,
and Master.
basically.
Yep, yep.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to get at least one other person there so I don't look like a lunatic for having a one-person intervention. We're gonna have to be like, Dave, this has to stop because, and I'm gonna like bring an interventionist, being like, this is how your iskaiing makes me feel. For those who don't know,
Hey,
isekai is the genre of, I suppose it could be anything, but it generally refers to Japanese animation where a normal human being, usually an otaku fuckwit, is taken to some alternate world, sometimes within a video game, sometimes with very video gamey rules, almost always a fantasy world where they are the center of attention and every big tittied girl that ignored them in real life wants to jump on their dicks. That's basically the genre.
I mean, there are exceptions, but there's always exceptions
No,
to the
there are
rule.
exceptions. Some of them have, how do I put this? The ones that 99.9999972% of these shows are trash. The ones that aren't trash have
Mm,
generally gone only as far up as aggressively okay. And there we have our
aggressively.
there we have our I was reborn as a slimes, and the one where the girl makes that girl group of adventurers whose
Uh-huh.
name I don't
Yeah.
remember. I don't remember a lot of anime names these days.
Didn't I ask you to make my abilities
Yeah.
average?
Oh, and that's another thing. They all have the worst titles. Like, didn't I say not to let an air vent fall on me in the real world? It's all
Yeah.
trash like that. If we want to
Yeah.
expand the genre, we have good stuff like The Owl House and a lot of things that aren't really anime.
My Hero Academia.
No, that is not an isekai. Are you insane?
No, I'm just saying anime in
Oh, okay,
general.
okay,
No.
okay, okay.
I mean, I understand your hate for Isekai. I do. I like a lot of it, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean,
They're all the
there's
same
good.
thing. They are the
They don't.
same show. They're all the same plot.
No, they're not.
They're all exactly the same
No.
plot. It's okay. So in addition to all the genre descriptors I just said, usually the main character will find out some big revelation about how the other world works that lets them break the physics of that world completely. And every single one of these fucking stories acts like this is the biggest fucking most brilliant big brain thing any author could have thought
Well, I'm not going to argue
of.
that.
They're all the same thing.
Well, no, they're not. But the whole author thinks they're fantastic is a trope
It's
of
like,
anything.
aha, but I learned that magic in this world works like, oh, what's some nerdy thing that I was made fun of for in school? Programming! And now I can go pound dot ice and cast super ice magic, and I'm so brilliant. That's this guy. We have an anime show that we don't contribute to for a reason, Dave.
No, the only reason we don't contribute to it right now is because we're in a pandemic and we have a hard time doing it.
God.
As I told you, this pandemic ends, the anime rave is coming back full force.
I'll be the judge of that because copyright striking and my own workload will dictate how much of that is true. And I happen to like when we watch things and then talk about them after, rather
Yeah.
than having to put our reactions up all the time.
Oh no. I have some plans on how to do it with taking away the copyright strikes, to not have to do the reaction stuff. I still want to do reactions to certain things, but we'll find a method of doing things that will result in less copyright strikes, or at least less or easier to fight copyright strikes.
Now, your topic you want to talk about actually doesn't just apply to anime, though. This is the topic you want to bring up applies to any
Everything.
kind of adaptation at all.
Mm-hmm.
Comic book to film adaptations are the one big thing I can think of. Even stuff like graphic novels to television definitely applies. So I don't know if this is entirely an anime topic, but your topic was that when do you adapt faithfully versus when you just do something original for your new medium. And you were
Yeah.
going to bring up the Promised Neverland, which I haven't seen season 2 of yet, nor have I read ahead on the manga, but I have heard that the TV show deviates and that fans are not happy.
Yeah, so I was gonna focus on anime, but this does go into every medium, both for positives and negatives. A positive example I can give of this is the original Fullmetal Alchemist.
Oh, the 2003 version, the one that I prefer.
Yes, the
Uh,
one that went so far into the manga and then was like whoosh off in its own direction. We're doing our own thing.
yeah, as a big fan of that, and as a person who actually prefers that story over what the manga and Brotherhood did, you're right. That is a good example of an adaptation that took the original material and kind of built something different with it. But we also get that on this side of the ocean. Look at Cybersix, for example, based on a European graphic novel that was actually a lot more adult. But this Canada Japan co production TV show made it more family friendly, but a little more adventurous and hopeful. And I think in that adaptation actually works a lot better for Cybersix, especially on the given medium. I wouldn't take away from having a dark, edgy Euro graphic novel, though, because some of those are awesome. But yeah, I think when you adapt, keeping in mind the medium, and as an audience, we need to understand that an adaptation does not have to be frame by frame.
Well, and this also comes into even just dubbing. Samurai Pizza Cats is a great example of that, where they did their own dub, and the show was better for it.
Sure, but when you talk about Samurai Pizza Cats or Ghost Stories or something, we're talking about a dub where they completely changed the story of the work in order to make something new and, in our humble opinions, better. But when we talk about dubbing, I think one of the big things, and part of the reason that some people don't much care for dubs, is because sometimes, and this is actually something that irks me about certain dubs too, this is not any kind of shot on the professionalism of a dub or its quality. It's that, and especially lately, dubs have been more concerned with being closer to the Japanese original than they have been with being an original take on the characters. And I'm not a big fan of that. That strikes me as a little disingenuous. I like when a dub gives me a new angle on a character that is still true to that character. I don't like when a dub is trying to just read the subline well, and it's not really all that different. I might as well watch it in Japanese if that's going to be the case, right? You see that a lot in modern dubs where they keep the honorifics in, although the honorifics themselves are not the problem. Like,
I despise when they do the honorifics.
I don't hate them, but look at the latest Persona games. Their dubs are very good, but there's something, and these are very Japanese things, but the dub route they chose was to keep as original to the Japanese tone as possible, but in English. So you get the honorifics, you get the weird isms. Ironically, Yuki Yuna is a Hero's dub, a thing that is very Japanese. Its dub actually decided to be a little more interpretive of the characters. There was only one honorific they gave there, and that was for the Shinju Sama, but that makes sense in the context of that story. Otherwise, the dub actually gave you a new kind of interpretation. I might have had a problem with the quality of it near the end, but I do think that you gain a little bit watching that, even if you've seen the original. And you get something that is kind of a different take on the character, but still true to form. The other king of dubs is modern Dragon Ball. For the most part, like I've definitely appreciated watching Dragon Ball in Japanese for sure, but it just makes me appreciate the dub even more because we get a different side of Vegeta, a different side of Goku, a different side of Piccolo, that are still true to character, but they still feel like someone actually studied the character and decided on a take that was true to form, but not exactly the same. Modern Dragon Ball is the absolute king of dubs for me because of that. But there are other ones that are really good, like Blood Blockade Battlefront and whatnot. I definitely understand. Like, I definitely understand that dubs are a really good example to show of when you deviate, right? For adaptations, though, I'm actually kind of curious what Promised Neverland Season 2 changed. Like,
Oh,
have you
God.
seen it? Do you know? Like,
Yes.
can you describe, without editorializing too much, what changed from the manga and why people are upset about it?
Okay. I can actually put it down to 3 words.
Okay.
Fight or flight.
Okay. That explains nothing. Please elaborate.
Okay. So, imagine you're those kids at the end of Season 1 running into the forest.
You want me to imagine that I am a legion of children? Very well.
But
I am many.
you've seen the anime how it ended in Season 1. They're running into the forest. They've got the clothes on their back. They've got some food supplies, and that's it.
Yeah.
In the manga, they are fleeing for their lives, hiding and running from the demons. In Season 2, they're trying to fight, and they're winning.
Now, hang on. When you say they're winning, how badass are they winning?
Okay, I can't. I gave up partway.
Is there a scene when Emma punches through a demon, turns around, and then there's an explosion behind her for no reason?
Not quite, but these kids should not be. Not only is it such a deviation from the source material, which is pissing people off because people were looking forward to actually seeing seeing it adapted in some way that is much truer, but the fact that they're fighting back and winning barely makes sense within the context of what season 2 is doing. These kids should not be becoming Rambo the way they
Now,
are.
hang on. Are they winning the way the Ewoks beat the Stormtrooper mechs? Like, are they winning like by smashing an ATST into bits with 2 logs? Or are they winning because Emma literally goes up to a demon, rips its arm off, and then screams at
Okay.
God?
No. We're not doing some sort of demon hunter sort of thing there. It feels more like the season 2 writers went through a marathon of Rambo movies and the first Predator movie and said, yeah, this is how we're going to have these kids win.
Dave, please don't take this the wrong way. You're really making me want to watch season 2 of The Promised Neverland.
Okay, and I get how I'm making it sound, but
Fuck, I hate that this is so cool and rad now.
No, but it's not. That's the problem. What I just said there makes it sound like this should be like a holy shit, we're getting some, guerrilla warfare from these kids. But this is happening, but none of it is justified. None of it.
Dave, come on. When that 11-year-old girl disemboweled that fucking Cthulhu monster, that was cool, right? Did that happen?
No.
Okay.
Look, The Promised Neverland made me think of this topic because there are arguments for both sides of things, allowing people to go on their own ideas of how the story should continue. But usually that only happens when, you run into the manga's not done, or they're not being given oversight, or this sort of stuff. But I mean, with The Promised Neverland, we had a completed fucking manga, but they somehow thought that they could go their own route with season 2 to try and make it more interesting / make it more action oriented / insert excuse here that I've heard online from people kind of as part of the project. But yet none of this gets us from where they are now to anything that happens later on in the manga. They fucked it up.
Obviously, there are some mangas that adapt to TV very well. And I'll bring this up again. My Hero Academia has been very good because not only is the manga very storyboard ready on its own, but the television show has been very smart in dividing itself into seasons and to keep the seasons kind of logically having their blocks of stories from the manga, right? And stuff that is introduced that's anime only, or stuff in the movies is still in canon with the story, but still doesn't feel out of place. So there's definitely a way to adapt that's faithful and also additive. There definitely have been stories where they've adapted and taken wildly different routes, and that tends to happen more on our side of the pond, where they'll take like a Spider-Man and there'll be 5 different origin story movies that all play out differently and they have their pros and cons, right? I am not of the opinion that just because The Promised Neverland manga is completed means that the anime must always adhere to it. And I know you're not either. I know that that's not what you believe either, because obviously something about this season irked you. And that even if it was different, but you still liked it, you would have said so.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I guess what I'm missing here is context, and I clearly need to see the show and or read the manga further.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I have to say that I have not finished season 2. I don't think season 2 is done in the anime yet.
Okay.
And I'll admit, I stopped a few episodes in because I didn't like where it was going. I still need to finish it, and I more than likely will finish it either with you or separately. But I've read this section in the manga, and I expected liberties to be taken because this section is, I'm not going to say it's boring, but it's a little bit slow. And there are ways that they could have livened it up, or, added some storyline into it, or even move some later things into this section. It just, this one especially has felt like they just decided that no, they didn't want to do what was in the manga. They wanted to do their own thing because they thought the Promised Neverland needed to become an action anime. Now, again, I haven't seen the last 2/3 of the show, so maybe I'm wrong here, but everything I hear from other people as well, Promised Neverland has never been an action-oriented show, really. There have been pieces of action in and around their activities and things of that nature, but the Promised Neverland's whole thing was that, they were dealing with the horror of their situation, how they were going to get out of it. That didn't have to change just because they were in the forest. I mean, they're literally being hunted by demons. It still very much could have been true to its horror roots. They could have changed some things where maybe, some of the kids got caught or whatever else, change things up so that would affect later stuff as well. But the way they changed it just doesn't feel true to the story. And I never, even looking back at, original Fullmetal Alchemist versus Brotherhood, I can say that, the original still felt fully like a Fullmetal Alchemist story, even though they went off in their own way and changed entire characters and bloodlines and everything else. I can still say that. Promised Neverland doesn't feel like that. And another anime that, has had two different adaptations is Fruits Basket. Now, that one ended more... Actually, I really shouldn't use that one as an example because the only thing they really changed was right at the very end to try and give it a ending so they didn't have to continue it. But what else could I use here for adaptations? I mean, even shows like a Kame ga Kill, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, they went their own way in that, characters died that didn't originally die in the manga or were supposed to survive, and they ended up sacrificing themselves. I mean, those are anime level changes because they had no intention of going into Act 2 or Act 3 kinds of stuff. It means that, you can be kind of sad that you're not getting more of the anime, but it's still a completed adaptation.
No, I definitely hear what you're saying. There's a lot of subjectivity to it. Hell, maybe I'll look at Promised Neverland and like the anime. Who knows? But there's a lot of subjectivity to it, and there's a lot of analysis of like when you're adapting, what do you put in? I think that's a very I think that's a fun topic. It's the kind of topic that I would like to hear people send voicemail in about.
I mean, we usually think of adaptations. I'm going to jump out of anime here because I'm obviously getting stuck on it. But when you think of adaptations from books to movies, and you brought up the example of, comics to movies, the best way to adapt those things, I mean, we never agree on. Well, you and I sometimes do, but I mean, look at the Harry Potter movies, for example. And I know you hate me bringing those up.
Oh, I love it, Dave. It's so good.
You never did like the Harry Potter
Hearing
stuff.
about Harry Potter again. Oh, I'm half-mast just thinking about more Harry Potter discussion.
Oh my god. Fuck you. In a series like that, just what to actually adapt and what to leave on the cutting room floor is a very heavy discussion among fans. Just because, some subtopics they left on the cutting room floor because it would have made those movies 4-hour, and this is up for argument, masterpieces / slogs.
Man, you're using slashes a lot.
Am
Commit,
I?
Dave. Pick a side. You
Oh,
hoser.
no. Well, I think the movies could have been a little bit longer and left some of that stuff in, but
I think they could have been a little bit longer / shorter and left some more stuff in / out.
no, I'm not doing the slash on that one. I think they should have been longer and more complete. Meanwhile, Carlos is trying to slit his wrist thinking of the Harry Potter movies being longer.
All I know is that whenever there's been Harry Potter stuff I've liked, I've always found out that it's stuff that wasn't in the books. Like when everyone was like, "Oh, movie 3 wasn't faithful," and I'm like, "That was the first one that I actually thought was decent." Or when they split up the final book into 2 movies, and I'm like, "Wow, maybe they should have stopped at one," because when they were on the run, that was fucking great. Everything else after that was whatever. Maybe Voldemort should have been chasing them in a car, and I'm not actually joking.
Yeah, yeah. You went places you shouldn't have.
Fucking, I want to see a Harry Potter movie where there's a drive-by wanding, and they literally have recruited Steven Seagal into helping them get away. They're like, "You have to go faster. The one that can't be named after us." And Steven Seagal's like, "I was supposed to," and then he hits the gas pedal,
I'd pay to watch this.
and then he's like, "I was actually a deputy outside of this movie," and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I'd almost pay to watch that. Would have to be better than the later shit that Rowling came up with.
J.K. Rowling, oh yeah, here's another good top. No, let's not. Let's not. Let's just say that she has views I don't agree with and move on.
Speaking of moving on, let's bring up a movie that I intend to rave when it comes out.
Yeah, this is one we kind of gotta. This is one we kind of gotta anime rave, don't we?
Yeah,
Because yeah, the final Ava movie I think is out.
yes it
The one that
is.
I said, and I was very clear. This there's a certain thing I want from it, and whether or not I get it, this is it. This is the last Ava related thing that I'm going to consume. If there's more later, I do not acknowledge its existence. This is
Fair
it.
enough.
This is it. And then I'm done.
This is their last chance, eh?
Well, no, this is their. I guess it's their last chance to make an impression on me because no matter what happens, I'm done. I could be cheering and leaping out of my seat at this, and I'll be done after.
It's been a long road for Ava.
Yeah, it's been a very long, tumultuous road that I, in retrospect, shouldn't have gone on. Neon Genesis Evangelion is a thing that it made. Someone put a comment on one of our videos that I think is very poignant. They said that they're glad to see people who hate Ava enough to love it,
Yep.
and it's such a fucking relevant thing to say because Ava is the kind of thing that seems like it was engineered for me to overthink it, to fall in love with certain parts of it, to fall in absolute hate with other parts of it, and for it to become the thing that really made me see fandom as bad. And for that, I'll be forever grateful to Ava. You know what? I take it back. I'm glad I got on this road, but I'm happy to leave it.
And I think that matches my opinion as well. Ava wasn't one of the first animes, but it was one of the first series that I jumped into after getting into anime. I mean, yeah, I saw Robotech and a bunch of other ones before it, but Ava was the first one that really. I don't want to give it enough credit to say it was one of the first ones that made me think, because that's not true. But it was one of the ones that had me seriously considering what the fuck was the author on. Because Ava had such ups and downs in quality as the series went along. And that leaves out, the original movies, because I don't want to justify their existence. But like these new movies have been very much like the series. They've had their massive ups with their massive jumps down as well. I've gone back recently and listened to our movie 2 review and reactions. And
Movie 3. You're talking about the one where you're talking about you cannot redo, right?
yes, I am.
That was the third one.
Okay. Thank you for the fix. But I was listening to that, and yeah, that movie really. We talked a lot about a lot of things in that movie, but I don't think we hated it, but we definitely didn't love it. So that comment is very poignant to how we felt, and really does sum up Ava in a nutshell for us. I I have my hopes for this movie. I really do. because I've read some of the later stuff that he did in manga form that kind of goes along with our thinking about the whole ending the cycle. But I don't know. We'll see it when it eventually comes out. It's a couple clips here and there have leaked onto the internet, and I have made sure that I haven't watched any of those because I want to see it as a complete work, not as a bit here, a bit there.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's move away from anime and get on to the
Yeah,
topics.
let's get to our topics.
Let's start with Humble Bundle.
Yes. So
let's get the really negative stuff out of the
this
way
whole podcast is
first.
going to be negative. So Humble Bundle
No, it's not.
is limiting what amounts can now be sent to charity. They used to have a dial that, as far as I remember, let you put 100% of your donation towards charity or to the developers or to humble themselves or whatever amount. And now they're limiting to that. The maximum you can donate to charity is 15%, and Humble always gets at least a really big cut of things.
About 25-30%. Now, I know I put this topic on you yesterday and everything else. I've done some research, and this...
I was talking to some people about it just before we started recording, and in a non like my serious answer to this is I don't know what their overhead is and how much of this is justified, so I can't really talk about it. But in Realityville, I can get deals sometimes. Something capitalism.
Okay, I'm gonna do a kind of a pro-con thing here, but I'm gonna take devil's advocate.
Advocate for the devil, Dave.
So, from what I can see here, it does look like this may have been pushed onto them by the devs that are supplying said stuff. Because, let's face it, whenever you went to those dials, and I mean, I've bought a lot of stuff off of Humble Bundle over the years, and I would usually put 90% towards charity, and then, or 80%, and then give like 15% to Humble and 5% to the dev. Now, the devs may have gotten tired of a little bit of that.
Well, I don't blame them, because I would normally put most of mine to the dev, because they're the ones who made the damn thing.
I know, but anyway, here's the part that pisses me off the most about this. If the bundle is $35, okay? Now, if Humble wants to tell me that if the package is worth $35, I can only give 15% of that 35 to charity, okay, fine. But if I'm one of those people who want to throw lots of money at the bundle, say $100, I should be able to say anything above that $35 amount that you've told me the bundle is worth, that extra $65, I should be able to say that whole $65 goes to charity. That is where I am the most annoyed at their change.
Nah, I disagree. The reality of it is that game development costs money, and all this overhead they do costs money too. So if they feel that the percentages have to reflect the reality of it, then I don't think it's up to you to say how much goes here and how much goes there.
For the initial price of the payment, sure. But if I decide to give extra, I should be able to say that all that extra goes to charity.
Okay, but what's stopping you from just going to that charity's donation page, making a donation for that amount, and getting a tax receipt so that you could claim that against your taxes?
Nothing, but I'm under the understanding that tax refund goes towards Humble.
This seems... I don't see an issue right now. Will Humble get too big and too evil? Yeah, it's an inevitability. They've become a game storefront, which means they're going. If they have not already embraced evil, they will soon. I don't see the problem in them taking what they think is their fair cut and negotiating with game devs and charities, especially since charities rely on donations, and it's not up to Humble to make people donate to charity.
I don't necessarily agree, but
like, okay. Again, it just seems that if you're adding extra, why not just donate to that charity? Like I've sometimes been asked at past jobs, if I want to put a donation to the United Way or something that consolidates charity things. And I'll always tell them, no, I generally donate to charity directly. And then I get that tax receipt, and I get to save some sweet, sweet tax money on my taxes.
That's really probably the most negative thing in the podcast that I think so
Oh
far
no,
today.
it's not. I've seen your topics. One of them made me go, and I quote, "God damn it, Dave." So don't worry, we've got more.
Uh, yes,
I
okay.
will let you
You can't
choose
hide
what's
that.
next, though. I have all my notes up for the various
I
things.
I, I gave you a list. I figured let's go through the list as we've
Yeah,
gone.
sure, sure.
Next topic is Halo Infinite. Has not come out yet, but is coming. The ranked play will actually separate the mouse and gamepad players into different lobbies just based off of what input you're
Yeah,
using.
mouse keyboard versus gamepad. Regardless, and I read this further, it's irrespective of the version of the game. So if you're playing it
Yeah.
on PC and you're playing on gamepad, you're in the gamepad lobby, and if you're on console playing mouse and keyboard, you're in the mouse slash KB party for ranked
I
matchmaking.
I don't like this.
Me neither.
Well,
Oh, good, we're in agreement. I thought we were going to have a fight about this one. This is dumb. It removes the chance for us to see how the top players trend and to
yeah.
see if it's possible for a breakout gamepad player to dominate. It's similar to how fighting games, most players use sticks, but among them you see gamepad users who can take top spots and even world championships. There is an argument to make that the gap between a fighting game gamepad and joystick is much smaller than the gap between a gamepad FPS and a mouse and keyboard one. But what if someone was using like a Steam controller type thing where they can turn much faster? What if a future gamepad comes out like that? In addition, 343 Halo involves dumb leveling bullshit. So their ranked match is a gong show anyway. Who gives a shit if they split things up on that line?
Also, how are they going to determine whether you're using one of those gamepad to keyboard and mouse conversion units?
Mm-hmm.
So really, they're segregating, but the only it's so stupid. They're
What if someone uses both? What if someone
yeah,
has movement, is using the left half of their gamepad for movement, and they're using a mouse for the other part?
uh-huh.
What the fuck are they doing segregating the player base like this for ranked matches? It's such a bonehead move.
It sounds like they were just trying to make it we're going to segregate PC players from the console players, but oh wait, now we allow keyboard and mouse on our actual console too, but they're not going to do that. So they, it's like they think they're being smart.
Why don't they just take the next step and separate them between men and women too? So it can be like real sports.
Harsh.
The fucking 343. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad we're in agreement on that. I was ready for a fight. My butthole was clenching a little bit, but no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, just completely unnecessary segregation of players.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Speaking of segregation,
Oh no.
the chip shortage is still ongoing. People still can't buy a PS5 or a Xbox Series X or a video card, and they're saying this shit could last until 2023.
I blame capitalism and cryptocurrency, and you can't blame cryptocurrency without blaming the thing that created it. Because fucking, I saw broken graphics cards going for 4 figures on eBay. Broken graphics cards.
Uh-huh.
And instead of solving the problem, which is that capitalism is outdated and currency is a farce, instead of nerds like putting their heads together and thinking of solutions, they just made magic coins that live on your computer and that have a blockchain who is getting exponentially bigger, that much of the world's power is being eaten up by keeping them alive. This chip shortage will continue until we as a society, either in the short term, outlaw cryptocurrency, or in the long term, finally move past capitalism.
Yeah, neither are happening anytime soon. So I thought I would bring that up.
Well, I think there is a real chance if enough people get mad enough at their elected officials who can only ignore so much for so long, that there is a real chance of the outlawing of cryptocurrency. That one could potentially happen, and it would happen before we eventually go, wait a minute, class society is bullshit. Let's just move forward in our evolution as a species. But until then, I'm going to have a hard time finding a PS5 to play Returnal, which I have been wanting to do since I heard of Returnal, and it's already out, and I'm watching other people play Returnal who weren't following it as hard as I was, and I'm like, motherfuckers, I want to play Returnal right now.
My copy arrives tomorrow.
Yeah, what a piss off. Carlos finally wants to play a game made this year.
It's kind of funny
And
that way.
not a 2D game either. A third person, admittedly bullet helly roguelike shmup.
Yep.
Of all things, and I can't play it.
Which brings us to the next topic. PS5 and Xbox Series X and the lack of games that have come out in the first 7 months of its release. I mean, yes, we've now got Returnal, absolutely. We had Dark Souls,
Demon Souls.
Demon Souls.
Demons Souls. Demon apostrophe S Souls.
But when you look at the games that have come out so far, they've really just been ports of late PS4 games with a little bit of upgrade. Really, there have not been many actual new PS5 games or Xbox Series X, though I think Xbox is suffering more from it, from the lack of games. But as a PS5 owner, I've been playing PS4 games because what else is there to play?
I'm surprised Returnal even made it to market, to be quite honest with you.
Well, with
probably
Sony's
a bit of Housemark having some pull with Sony.
The bottom line is Sony's becoming very toxic as far as how it deals with its internal development teams.
Yep.
So this game coming out, it had a lot to fight.
Push more Last of Us 1 and 2 and pay off awards shows so people know how good they are. And that's what the Sony house will become known for. That, God of War, which admittedly was fucking great. Returnal, which admittedly looks fucking awesome. And maybe 3 other things. And people want innovation and other things. Why the fuck would we do that? That's not making us money.
Yeah,
I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. Cartridges. If we had game cartridges, all of this would be solved.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
Lock-on technology. I should be able to put my copy of Halo Infinite into Sonic and Knuckles and play as Knuckles.
The other topic I wanted to bring up here with...
Don't ignore me!
Hey, I wouldn't mind having Knuckles introduced into any of the games, okay? But I'm not open to going backwards as far as cartridge technology. That's all I'm saying.
No, I want cartridges back.
Like, when I look at just the PS5, I'm not going to go Xbox Series X at this point. There have been a total of 28 games that are quote-unquote PS5. Most of them are simply PS4 games with a little bit of extra polish.
Yeah.
Things like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Devil May Cry 5, Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Now, the Miles Morales part was PS5 made for, but actual PS5 games have been really few and far between. I mean, Demon Souls was made for PS5, but again, it's a port/remake/remaster of an older game.
Dave, I've just received word that on the 2022 Lake Superior State University band's list words is port/remaster/remake.
Well, fuck them too. But the other reason I wanted to bring this topic up is because most of the games have been ports or upgrades to previous games, we're not really seeing yet what a PS5 game can really look like.
No, because they shouldn't have come out yet. These systems are early.
And that's that is part of my point here. They could have delayed the PS5 and the Xbox Series X till now easily, and we wouldn't have noticed the difference.
Yeah, they wanted that green. They're
Yeah.
like, our fucking number crunchers say it's time for a new console, and we must appease the gods of finance and put those out. Even if the market isn't ready for them, our devs teams aren't ready for them, and really the whole gaming industry isn't ready for them.
Now, Returnal looks amazing. Could the game have been done in PS4? Probably, but would it have looked this good? Oh god, no. I mean, Returnal looks amazing, but you know what looks better than Returnal?
Eh.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game on PlayStation just did one of their state of play.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. I'm usually the one who tells people about them, and I completely missed. Like, I got home from work that day, and people were like, "You saw the state of play?" I'm like, "What? What happened? I was gone for a few hours."
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm watching the state of play, and I'm not really focusing on the gameplay so much because I want to play that game myself. But I'm looking at the graphics. I'm looking at the stuff in the background. I'm looking at, and this is kind of funny, I'm looking at the hair physics on the actual characters. And they've gotten to the point in the graphics on the PS5 now that you can make out individual hairs moving. These two games show off the beginnings of what the PS5 can pull off.
Now, Dave, does this look as good as Donkey Kong modeled on Silicon Graphics computers and put onto the Super Nintendo, the only system that can handle the amazing technology discovered at Rare? Because if it can't handle it, then Dave, you are stupid. Yes, that's insulting, but it's also the truth.
Speaking of games I'm looking forward to here that has recently gotten a little bit of information, Breath of the Wild 2.
Yes, I better finish that first one. I have one more Divine Beast, and that's the last photograph or memory I'm missing, and then I literally just go beat Ganon and I get the full ending.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to do. I don't know why I stopped. I think it's because I have a new office setup, and I'm trying to find a way to play my console games on a Windows window with as little lag as possible, so I can stream them to people. There's apparently a really promising device being sold on Indiegogo for that looks really good, and it's cheap, and I already have one on the way. So we'll see. But yeah, fuck Breath of the Wild 2. I've been looking forward to it for a while. I hope that we get a playable Ganondorf campaign out of it, or a playable Zelda campaign. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty hype about it. What have you heard, though, about the development? Because this is actually news to me.
Well, the studio that is working on it is ramping up majorly right now for staff in their company.
Oh, man, that's bad. If they're all getting staff just combining that with COVID, they're just going to be disease-ridden, and we're not going to see this game until 2023.
Well, maybe not.
I'm clearly joking. I was making a joke about the staff, like STAPH. Yeah, and obviously it backfired, and I don't know why I made it. So please continue your thought, and I'll shut up.
Major, heavily and bold rumors here, but the current talking points are that we may actually see Breath of the Wild this year.
I mean, it feels like it's been in development for a long time now, so...
Of course, we still don't know which timeline it's going off of.
Nintendo, well, it was... Okay, hang on. This is clearly based off of Breath of the Wild. Like, it showed the same Link and Zelda in what appeared to be something after that adventure.
Sure it did.
And they said the sequel to Breath of the Wild. So, I'm assuming it's the same universe. If they suddenly pulled a Raiden and said, nope, completely different point of the timeline, that would be a dick move.
Well, no, you see, we've had a game that has come out since.
Yes, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, where they introduced time travel.
And split the timeline.
Fucking Zelda and split timelines.
So, do you want spoilers?
Spoil away. We already have a spoiler warning on this.
Yeah, we do. I meant more for you.
Whatever. It's not going to stop me from playing things.
So, Age of Calamity starts off with a little mini guardian,
Yeah.
literally going back in time.
Yes, I know about that part.
Okay, so Link and Zelda go ahead back, and without going into too many details, they end up splitting the timeline because they bring the souls of the heroes' descendants, the ones that died in each divine beast, and their descendants' souls help them fight off the parts of Ganon that would have killed them, and they save each one of them and defeat Ganon, quote unquote, back in time. So, the question is, with the Breath of the Wild trailer that we see there, is that the timeline where Link wakes up 100 years later and saves Zelda? Or is this that Link and Zelda back in the past, now having to put up with the change they just broke the timeline?
Or there's a third possibility. There's a third
Okay,
possibility. You want to hear it?
sure.
Cartridges. No, the third possibility is that it's both.
Well, and it very well could be. I mean, there could be actual time travel as part of a Breath of the Wild 2. I mean, we've basically got the difference, as far as I'm concerned at least. The big difference is going to be, am I traveling an intact Hyrule, which would be fucking cool, or am I still traveling a destroyed Hyrule?
Mm-hmm. And it was tough
Either,
to tell. It was tough to tell in that little teaser.
oh, you can't tell at all because I mean, it's brilliant. They're underground. They're underground. They find Ganon from which game was that?
Twilight Princess? Was it Twilight Princess?
Thank you. We find the Ganon from Twilight Princess down there, which makes us think that maybe the Ganon that we defeated in Breath of the Wild 1 may not have actually been Ganondorf. I mean, I'm looking really forward to Breath of the Wild 2.
The questions are piling up. Follow the money. We'll find out where Ganondorf is.
The really question is, am I going to be playing Breath of the Wild 2 on a regular Switch or on the Switch Pro?
They're not going to call it the Switch Pro. They're going to call it a really dumb Nintendo name. And if I was going to hazard a guess, they're going to call it the Switch Vertical. Will you be playing it on an SV? Maybe.
Maybe. Other things we're looking forward to. We have a bunch of DLC coming out here soon.
Yeah, we do.
Streets of Rage 4 DLC, buddy.
Yeah, I played that with you, and I played that with another friend of the show, and I'm probably going to play it through again with both of you again.
Damn
Mr.
right.
X Nightmare DLC. They added some characters who probably should have been in the base game, but I don't care. Streets of Rage 4 is great, and I am looking forward to whatever weird kooky shit Mr. X is doing now.
Yep.
That guy does not. I knew he wasn't dead.
Of course not.
Like, you kill him in Streets of Rage 2. They saved his brain in 3. You fight his children in 4, but I knew he wasn't dead.
Yeah,
This guy's harder to kill than Zero from Mega Man X. Like,
speaking of hard to kill, Skullgirls DLC. Finally, after how many years?
It warms my heart that this game, so many things have conspired to kill this game, all the way from back to its inception to right now. And we don't need to go over the history lesson of that. We just need to realize that Skullgirls has somehow survived and is getting even more DLC, including a new character. It recently got Annie of the Stars, and it's getting another new character. I'm hoping to see, because they had that whole Kickstarter list of characters way back when.
Yep.
I'm hoping to see Isaac, because Isaac has the cool time travel mechanic. I'm also hoping to see the girl who apparently works like a speedrun and she glitches reality.
I mean, they've got so many characters to work with because of stuff like that. I'm just glad to see this wasn't a Skullgirls 2, that they are continuing on the original game.
Yeah, I need to get back into Skullgirls. There is a fighting game that I recently played that I ignored for too long that I wanted to play, and that is actually super good, and I think you might like too. It's free to play as well. And it's very gamepad friendly because it doesn't have like special move motions. It has a special button. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid.
Ah, yes.
Super good game. It feels really good, and it's about to get Ryu DLC from Street Fighter, and an alternate costume where it shows Ryu as what if he was part of Angel Grove.
Cool.
Yeah, have you seen that picture of Ryu?
I have. It looks amazing.
It looks, the 90s Carlos is ready for this. That game is criminally underrated, and it and Skullgirls both deserve as much love as anyone can give them.
This is hilarious. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, 9 out of 10 on Steam, 1 out of 5 on EB Games.
Really?
Yeah, that does not surprise me.
Why is it 1 out of 5 on EB Games?
That's just what people have continually rated it. Oh, it's rated 1.0 by 2 gamers. Never mind. That's not even worth it.
Okay. So some scrubs are like, I don't like how fireballs hit me when I'm blocking. I think I should be able to mash my face on a keyboard and win in Halo Infinite Ranked. Mash your face on the keyboard, also in the 2022 list of Lake Superior State University's ban word list.
Oh my god. Speaking of reviews, I need to talk about a game that unfortunately you haven't played yet.
I have not. I've seen it, and you have played it, and you're going to gush about it.
Oh my god. One night one of my friends was like, "Yeah, let's play this game." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to buy another game right now." And they're like, "Dude, yes, it's an EA game, published by EA, made by another studio that had full control of their stuff, thank God." And he's like, "Look, I buy it, you download it, and I simply invite you to my game and we play." I'm like, "Okay, fine, let's do this." And I'd seen a couple little ads here and there, but it it was a game called It Takes Two.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was getting into. My god, was this game fucking amazing. 10 out of fucking 10. You play as one of two characters turned into little dolls by their daughter, trying to get the couple to not divorce. So it deals with some pretty heady topics, but the environments you play through, the dialogue, the I used to think that Nier Automata had an amazing.
Why do you have such a problem pronouncing that game?
What did I mess up?
You didn't mess up anything. It's just you have to try. It's like Nier Automata.
But it Takes Two had the greatest amount of different mechanics in a game. It had a great amount of environments that were fun and quirky. You had to work together, and that was the whole point of the game, is whether you're playing on the same screen or you're playing it over the internet, you see both. It's split screen whether you're playing online or not, because you have to work together, and you can screw each other around a little bit and die and everything else, but nothing ever breaks the game that way. But it was so fun, so imaginative. I mean, they put so much work into this game and its environments, mechanics, that I couldn't believe from one world to the next just how much fun it was. It never outstayed its welcome, and it was just so beautiful. If you haven't played it, definitely play this game and support it, because I can't believe I'm going to say this. EA has published an amazing game, and they didn't try and screw us on forcing you to pay twice for the same game.
It's not the first time EA has done this, but it seems to be a rare thing.
It is a very rare thing. Play this game. It is worth all the review ratings it's getting. Now, I think you have some to talk about, Carlos.
I do? What's the next topic on the list?
Well, SaGa Frontier.
Yes. SaGa Frontier Remastered.
You've got 4 games you want to talk about.
I'm not going to talk about them too long. I kind of brought it up at the beginning of the podcast, but I was a big fan of SaGa Frontier in the late 90s. It was one of my favorite PlayStation 1 RPGs. I played a shit ton of it, and the remaster, it was a famously unfinished game, the original game. It was very ambitious. 7 main characters, 7 unique final bosses, 7 different stories, and some intersect, but not a ton of it. It's not like Octopath where you pick one character, but then you eventually recruit everyone and do all their stories. It's literally, you pick a character and sometimes you meet others, sometimes you don't, and it's always that main character's story. And the game expected you to have 7 different save files plus an 8th for the system data. Thankfully, modern computing has made that a much easier requirement to swallow on the Steam version. SaGa Frontier Remastered has been just a fantastic remaster. It's kind of like FF6 on Steam. You can tell this is based off its mobile SKU. Unlike FF6 on Steam, you can make the experience look a lot more console-y by removing all the mobile buttons. It controls very well. It has some touch-ups and some additional scenes that didn't make it into the original game. And it has an entirely new playable character that has a mechanic that is borderline brilliant. This playable character is a detective, and when you play as him, he takes on the case file of whatever last character you beat before you picked him. And you basically get to play the story again, but under this detective's perspective, as he is going through and finding out the mystery of this case and trying to prevent a tragedy. Because some of the stories involve very personal struggles, and some of them involve saving all of existence as you know it, right? So it's kind of like if let's say there was a remaster of the original FF7, just for example, and you got to play as a detective who was investigating this meteor case and got to play a side story that coincided with the main game, investigating this Sephiroth fellow and trying to handcuff him and bring him in. It's super fun to play these existing scenarios and scenes. And the sprite work of this game has been touched up, but unlike FF6 on Steam, the sprites actually look good.
Good.
You can play the game at faster speeds or at its original speed. It has gamepad controls that work like a charm right off the bat. I don't know if the mobile version has gamepad controls. I haven't tried that yet. It has been just a fantastic remaster of what I feel is one of the more underrated classic JRPGs, and one back in the day when JRPGs were being very, very ambitious. SaGa Frontier does not hold your hand. It does not care about your feelings. You will walk into a new dungeon and regular monsters will obliterate your party and send you right back to the title screen. It is one of the few console JRPGs that at the time let you save anywhere, because you kind of had to, because you could die at any moment. The game is very open world. Some characters have a locked story, but almost every character has a segment in it where the game just drops you off in the world and says, go do whatever. Until you find the breadcrumbs again or get strong enough to handle those breadcrumbs. It's just a fantastic game, front to back. The only real SaGa game I like. I've tried some of the other ones. They're not really for me. But SaGa Frontier, it's just amazing. The world is like, some places are like modern day, others are like ancient castles, others are cities in the sky. I can't say enough good things. SaGa Frontier Remastered is... it's a little overpriced, but I thought it was worth it. Anyone looking for a really challenging classic JRPG is recommended to pick it up. I've been playing a shit ton of Pac-Man 99, Dave. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, have you played Pac-Man 99?
I have not. I'm not a big battle royale fan, so when they start throwing battle royale stuff into games that I do like playing Pac-Man. I'm just like, whatever.
Well, I'm going to say this. I have found that the best way to win at Pac-Man 99 is to just play Pac-Man. Play Pac-Man better than everyone else, and you'll probably win. I've won a few times now. It is a very fun battle royale, and it's free if you have Switch Online. It's basically Tetris 99, but Pac-Man. And I actually kind of like this idea of old arcade games getting that treatment. I don't think it worked so well for Mario 35, but it works really well for Pac-Man. It worked for Tetris. I kind of wish there was a Galaga 99, because I've been playing a lot of classic Galaga lately. And the last game I played a ton of, but then kind of gave up on, is an old PlayStation 1 classic that never got translated until a fan translation came out last year. I remember reading about this game on Die Hard Game Fan and really wanting to play it, and I finally did. Brave Prove. Dave, are you familiar with Brave Prove?
I am. I actually played this game many, many years ago with a hack job of a translation, and I stopped playing partway in because the translation was so bad.
Now, this translation these days is really good, but I don't
Oh
really
yeah,
have that old one to compare it to.
we're talking early Google Translate level of translation.
Yeah, and this one feels a lot more working designs, which is very fitting because I had heard rumors back in the day that Working Designs was thinking about bringing this game out here. Brave Prove, it's a top-down action RPG. It's got an interesting little combo system to it, and it's very twitchy. Like you have to double tap to dash. You can double tap in any direction. There's no dash button, and walking is slow. So you really want to use this dash. And I remember reading years ago on Die Hard Game Fan about people's thumbs getting sore when they were playing it. And even on a modern analog stick, which is a lot less impact than on a D-pad, I was finding my thumb getting super sore playing this game. But I would have put up with that, Dave, if it wasn't for one little problem that Brave Proof has that kind of turned me off on it.
Ah,
Dave, have you ever played Secret of Evermore on the Super Nintendo?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. I want you to think of some top down RPG, okay?
Yep.
Think of one that had a very maze like long level.
Mm-hmm.
Just think of it off the top of your head and tell me what game you're thinking of.
Okay, you remember that one series that it had two games. The second game was a prequel to the first one, and when they released it 20 years later, they turned it into a hack and slash that was just god awful. Come on, it was a Super NES RPG. Oh, one sec. I Now this one's gonna bug me.
You're not thinking of Shadowrun, are you?
No, God no. Lufia 2.
Oh, yeah, Lufia.
Lufia and Lufia 2 had a couple really long mazes,
Yeah.
or even Earthbound.
Okay. Think of the longest, most confusing maze in any of those games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Every single dungeon in Brave Proof is that maze 3 times over.
Ugh.
Every single one.
Let me guess. No internal saves.
There are saves, they're few and far between, but there is like, and there's no real logic to it. In Secret of Evermore, there's generally a logic to how a location is laid out. So it's maze like, but you can feel your way out of it. There's nothing like this in Brave Proof. Levels are long because they feel like they needed to be padded to be long, and they're mazes, all of them. When I was playing, I felt like I was reading those Where's Waldo books where one of them had the world of Waldos, looking for the Waldo so I could leave.
You know what series also did that?
Eh,
Wild Arms,
to a degree.
as as well as what was that other major RPG that just stopped in the PS2 days?
Legend of Legaia?
No.
Lunar?
It The second game you played as a guy with a bird. It was on Dreamcast and PC, but the PC version was worse than the
Grandia
Dreamcast version.
2?
Grandia 2, thank you. Grandia, every fucking map was a fucking maze.
I don't know. I made it halfway through Grandia 2. I didn't make it even a third of the way through this game.
And that's fair enough, but you're asking for games that had stuff like that. Those games definitely did.
Actually, I did make it farther in Grandia 2. I made it far enough to know I didn't like it.
Well,
But yeah, no. Brave Proof, I'm glad I got to try it. I don't think I'm continuing it.
fair enough.
What's our next topic?
I wanted to talk about Game Pass, Microsoft Game Pass, and whether subscriptions like Game Pass might just be the future of gaming on console and PC.
I wrote a note here, and I firmly agree with myself on this note.
Was it the word no?
No. The note is only in a world where we've solved the problem of game preservation.
Now that actually, let's talk about game preservation as well.
Okay, we should preserve games. All
Okay.
right, we've talked about game preservation. I
Um,
feel like we could call it a day.
while I agree with game preservation 120%, there are some things that do prevent that, and yet I think that when say an MMO gets shut down, they should be obligated to make it available for purchase, the server software I mean, so you can run your own server.
I think that there needs to be a suite of very in-depth and practical laws and regulations that does exactly that for all kinds of games. Nintendo should not be allowed to make Mario games disappear from the marketplace. Disney should not be allowed to Disney Vault shit. This doesn't just apply to games, by the way.
I know.
No, like the collective IP of humanity is that even when an invention belongs to a person or an entity, it is still enriching others, and therefore it shouldn't be completely just obliterated, right?
Yeah, like
There's
I
a.
would love to play games like Tabula Rasa or Auto Assault
Did you
or
just say tabula rasa correctly? You
yes.
didn't call it tabula rosa? Are you fucking with me? Did you do that on purpose to mess me up?
No, I just said the name.
What is happening?
But I mean, all these games like Hellgate London. Now granted, by today's standards, none of these games are great. But we still need the ability to reference back to these games and we should be able to play them in their original versions. But we can't because the server software has long since been deleted and it's a dead game.
Not to mention the old systems some of these games were made for aren't properly emulated. And
Exactly.
yeah, that's an issue. And big companies fight this because they want to be able to re-release an old game in a remaster, put very little work into it, unlike the Saga Frontier remaster that has a lot of work put into it, and make coin off of it. And as much as I like the game I just mentioned, I think the original Saga Frontier should be available for free for anyone who wants to play it on some kind of way to play the original PlayStation.
I wouldn't even mind if it was made available for $5.
I think the issue of game preservation is that like I like Game Pass. I subscribe to it. I've played some really good games off of Game Pass. Streets of Rage 4, Tetris Effect, Battletoads. I've played a number of fantastic games off Game Pass. I think it's a great service. I also think that we need to be very careful of curated services that we don't technically own that we're paying license to use. And this is coming from Carlos buys everything electronically, by the way. You're the guy who likes physical copies, and I'm not. But I'm still think that what I buy, I should own, and collectively as a species, that these games should be preserved after a certain amount of time. We need to stop Disney from lobbying to have copyright laws always extended in their favor for public domain, and there needs to be new provisions that let this kind of archival happen.
I like that Game Pass exists. I like the fact that I can play a lot of these games for a low cost, and then if I want to buy it and have it accessible to me after it's removed from that, I can. And yet I don't like PS Now, for example. I don't like the fact that it is a lag-filled mess. I don't like the fact that PS Now, if you do subscribe to it, you cannot search their list of games. You literally have to go page by page by page until you find the game you want to play. And even Sony is realizing how bad PS Now is finally because they're allowing you to start downloading the games to your system.
Let's not praise Sony too much, mind you,
I'm not.
because
I'm not.
because with
They're
their
doing the
recent bullshit about closing their old PS3 store and the vast like pushback they got on that, let's not be singing
no,
too many
no,
praises of this company, eh?
no. This isn't praise. This is them doing the absolute minimum they have to try and revive the illusion that they're trying to compete against Xbox Game Pass. There's no giving them praise here. It's just them doing the absolute minimum. And that is unfortunately Sony's MMO these days.
It's yeah, the bare minimum for maximum profit based off what crotchety old fucks, crusty old people say. Reusing that 2020 banned word.
And I love the fact you brought that up because that brings us on to our next topic of Konami.
Yeah, Konami is not going to be at E3 because they have various projects in the works. I've already heard of one, and it's supposed to be a new Getsu Fumaden game. Getsu
What the hell is
Fumaden
that?
Getsu Fumaden was an NES game we never got. It is
Okay.
where the character Getsu Fuma came from Harmony of Despair, the samurai.
Okay.
It's actually a game that lent a lot of mechanics to TMNT1 on
Hmm.
NES, and a lot of sound effects too.
Okay.
Konami once it's I guess it's technically in the Castlevania universe. So that's somewhat promising, assuming that they don't make a garbage game. But if we're talking about things Konami's working on and we want to speculate, hey, maybe they'll make a Harmony of Despair 2 that isn't garbage. Maybe they'll make a Symphony of the Night remastered. Who knows? There's any number of things that I'd like to see from Konami that, let's face it, we won't see.
I just found it amusing that because they actually have projects in development, which really isn't a Konami thing these days, that they are skipping E3 that they haven't been to in years because they haven't been relevant to the E3 show. Konami, being relevant to the show, is kind of the topic of E3. Is E3 even relevant anymore in a not just a pandemic filled world, but even if the pandemic was to be resolved tomorrow, would
You motherfucker.
what?
You motherfucker. Remember when I told you at the beginning of this that there was one where I said, God damn it, Dave? Well, here we are. Is E3 even relevant anymore, Dave? I don't
Yeah.
know. Let's go back in time to every year you ask that question. And every year, everyone and their mother has asked this question. Is E3 relevant anymore? Who the fuck cares? It's just a game showcase.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's I mean, Microsoft's doing their own thing now. Sony's doing their own thing now, and Nintendo's doing their own thing now. So is there even an E3 anymore? I mean, it's become more of a minor publisher event, not the big 3 that it used to be. So how long can E3 keep its doors open under everybody jumping ship? I guess that's the big question is of relevance is it's more of can they keep the doors open on an event that no longer has as many people anymore?
I
And does that mean that we're going to lose stuff that we have really liked from E3? Like what's that one game company that does the
Devolver Digital.
Devolver Digital? Yeah. Like I don't want to lose what Devolver Digital does, but would they do that if it wasn't E3?
Of course they would, because that is that's capital. That's social capital that they have. They will absolutely continue doing it. If E3 dies or not is the most irrelevant fucking thing imaginable, because if it does and it comes back, we're going to be watching it, and if it does die, we just won't watch it that year. It's just E3 is nothing. It's nothing. You know what E3 is? It's an excuse for devs to come out and showcase their gaming experiences that put me to sleep and make me wonder, why am I watching E3 again?
That's the main reason I brought this one up.
Is E3 relevant? It never was. There's your answer. It's just a show. It can't hurt you, Dave. It doesn't have the power to hurt you unless you let it hurt you. Then it can
Mm.
hurt you.
Our next topic is one that I hope doesn't hurt, and that is Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 1 remake.
Yeah, I have a note for this. I think they should make it like FF7 remake, but let me kill every NPC.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I would love to see a remake. I'm just worried about them messing it up. I mean, this is EA. I know EA is has actually gotten another company to do it, which is probably for the best, but it's still an EA release, so I'm not that hopeful. Anything else to say about that one?
Like, KOTOR is a thing that I played a little bit of, and then I was like, it's not for me. I like the idea of it. I like that there's some games that I like that drew from it, like the aforementioned FF7 remake. That said, Is BioWare only shitty now, or were they always shitty and we just never noticed it? That's the question. There's a piece of me that thinks they've always been shitty. I think the same thing of Blizzard, which I'll get to in a future topic you're about to bring up probably next. But BioWare has... I remember back in... I forget if we were in high school or in college. And it was probably... or in between even, because there was a big gap of a few years before I went to university with you. After high school. And we went to a job fair at one of these conference centers, right? And we live very close to where BioWare is located, so there were BioWare reps there. And I remember talking to them once, and they were talking about how BioWare is great, and they started talking about what their developers do that nowadays we recognize as giant warning signs not to get into that job. And that's stuff like, we work 21 hours a day. We sometimes sleep in the office. We go in at 8 a.m. and leave at 9 p.m. Our workers are our family, that kind of thing. All those warning words that we now know means that a company wants to take advantage of you and overwork you. And then that kind of came to a head when Matt McMuscles did his What Happened video on Anthem, when it was talking about the culture at BioWare. And I'm pretty sure that even pre-EA, BioWare has been awful. I've also known... I've applied for BioWare on more than one occasion, and I have known, without getting into specifics, really garbage human beings who they picked over certain roles over me. And the fact that I didn't get picked isn't what offends me, but the fact that certain garbage human beings who were very garbage kind of meshed with their culture shouldn't... it really was a bit of a wake-up call. I was starting to realize, wait a minute, that and that whole career fair thing and what I'm hearing now is painting a real big picture of what BioWare really is. And they've always been kind of an old boys club, a good old boys club of really narrow-minded, overworking, money-hungry devs. And they definitely have produced some gold over the years. Please don't misunderstand. They've produced some amazing games, but at too high a cost, in my opinion. So the question is, are you afraid of today's BioWare remaking KOTOR? I was going to ask you that, but then I realized, nah, because yesterday's BioWare making KOTOR is also scary, and it ended up being a good game, so a remake is probably going to be fine.
It could be. I just more worry about EA trying to add in microtransactions to it.
They will. Everything I just said about BioWare, by the way, applies to Blizzard. Yeah, people are like, oh, Blizzard, since Activision, Blizzard's never been the same. Motherfucker, I remember hearing about Blizzard's development process before Activision ever laid a finger on them and thinking to myself, this is fucking idiotic. Blizzard has been garbage for a long time, too. The only thing that keeps me playing their games is that they've somehow perfected this core gameplay where things just feel good to get your hands on and actually play with. But then you get to the systems surrounding them and you get a lot of really idiotic ideology. And it has been this way for years. Yeah, it's this way now with, in the latest WoW patch, them talking about not wanting to put gear in Torghast and not wanting to let alts be able to catch up to your mains. But they've done it all the way back since like Diablo 2 when they adamantly wouldn't let you respec. They made it so that PvP didn't have to be mutual. They nerfed abilities and never brought them back, like with the Amazon's Melee Amazon. Even further back than that, they're talking about how, I remember hearing Blizzard devs with pride talk about how you can't select past a certain amount of units in Warcraft or Starcraft because if we did, it would make the game too easy and we want to reward skill. Like, Blizzard has been garbage forever. They have this great core surrounded by trash. And I think a lot about that and them and BioWare in these terms. Jesus Christ, I really went off a tangent on that. This was supposed to lead to the whole Guild Wars versus WoW thing you had on the list.
And I still think it's completely valid because I brought this one because I let my subscription lapse to WoW because there was nothing but grind to do left, and the grind I wasn't finding fun. So I wanted to bring up bring up the topic of Guild Wars 2 versus WoW and how they roll content out to the players.
Have you played Guild Wars 2 recently?
Yes.
Okay, so just making sure that I haven't. So I have no context for what Guild Wars 2 has been doing.
Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 2 rolls out their content every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the size of an event that sometimes will change entire zones. I don't know if you remember any of the Guild Wars 2 events. I think you played a little bit, but then you kind of left.
Yeah, and then when I came back and I realized I wouldn't be able to play past elements of the story, I was like, fuck this.
They changed that, but
Cool, they should have changed it back then. Like, they also wouldn't let me keep my character named Sporb One Nut. So fuck him for that, ArenaNet.
okay. There are still problems, I will acknowledge, but I've come to realize just how much better Guild Wars 2 is at rolling out their content. Now, this is a game that you pay once for. You do not subscribe, have a monthly subscription, and yet they can roll out brand new content that, again, can literally completely destroy and change an entire zone of the game, which their zones tended to be larger than a WoW zone. In some cases not. There's always exceptions to the rule. But I've come to realize just how both imaginative and better Guild Wars doing that is compared to how WoW will just roll out their expansion. And then you could be waiting months for something new to actually hit in their next patch. I mean, I know ArenaNet makes most of its money between expansions off of microtransactions and stuff like that, but I'm willing to drop $5 or $10 on a microtransaction for this or that on ArenaNet compared to, having that subscription that I have to pay every fucking month. Yet there's no new content. What are your thoughts?
I haven't booted up WoW in a while. My subscription only ends in August anyway, and WoW for me has always been this kind of game that I get the itch for it, I play it, and then I let it lapse for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Should people want to play it with me, I probably will jump back in, or if I get the itch for it, I'll play again. At the moment, I'm playing other things, so WoW's kind of fallen by the wayside because I refuse to let any game be a job.
Mm-hmm.
WoW and a lot of other MMOs, Guild Wars 2 included, with their daily rewards for logging in bullshit, they want to be the game you play all the time.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I hate that if I miss a day or a week in one of these games, that I feel like I'm behind. I might not actually be behind, but the game is designed in a way that it's going to let you know, hey, you're now behind on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle, it's insidious, it's evil. It's part of why I will, even though there are MMOs I'll play for funsies, I don't take MMOs seriously as a genre, as a game genre. That's my smug asshole thing. It's not just like Superior State University anymore. Now it's Carlos State University, CSU. And my smug gamer thing is that MMOs aren't really games. Yeah, yes, they are, in the same way that walking simulator adventure games are also games, quote unquote. But MMOs are really just there to, in place of real mechanics, offer stuff that is simply meant to do retention. I remember on the Hades subreddit, someone said, "You know what would make Hades better if there were like special dailies or weeklies you could do." And I said, "Fuck that." Because Hades is good enough on its own merits. It doesn't need this kind of garbage whose only mission is to make you play it more. The game should be doing that of its own accord. I don't need daily activities, because the moment you do that, are you playing the game to play the game, or are you playing the game to fulfill some kind of completionist quirk in your mind? And that's what these games are. Now, again, I don't have the context in Guild Wars 2, so I can't say which one's better. I can't say that at the moment I'm not really playing WoW, that'll probably change in the future, and fuck MMOs.
Okay, and yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you just said there. I guess my real question comes down to, would you prefer giant chunks of content every 3 to 6 months, or would you prefer content being on a more weekly slash bi-weekly? Because I get that you don't want to feel the need that you have to be there all the time, but if you're interested in playing the game and you're in your I want to play the game now kind of thing, would you prefer having that additional content that keeps you as part of it without having the, I guess, the toxicity of I feel like I need to be there?
I think I'd prefer the tighter content, like the ones that are delivered week in terms of weeks instead of months, under the caveat that the game isn't like that. If I do miss one or two of them, I can do them later
Mm-hmm.
with no penalty, or I can just jump into the end game right when I jump in. So
Okay.
no old WoW thing where you have to have like attunements, or current FF14 thing where you have to go through the story.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I'd prefer that one just because that way, if I really was feeling like waiting 3 months, I just could anyway, and then play it all at once, you know. And if I really was hungry to just play it all the time, hey, new content.
Myself, I very much appreciate more of the Guild Wars 2 style, especially now that I've been back into WoW after a couple of years. But I still understand both ways of doing it. They both have their toxicity issues. They both have. I wish a lot of players that are just gung ho on WoW would at least have given Guild Wars 2 a shot.
It's unfortunate, but you get this no matter what MMO you go to. I remember jumping into other MMOs, and the entire chat was just people shitting on WoW for dumb reasons and valid
Mm,
ones. But all I could think of was WoW. Even when I'm not in WoW, I can't escape it. Why don't you people shut the fuck up and just enjoy the game that you're in right now and talk about it on its own terms?
like I really wish WildStar was still around.
Man, I that is the one MMO where I thought the combat system was legit so good they could have copied it and made it a single player game of some kind. And
Hmm.
FF14 and even WoW copied from it with its targeting thing, the targeting
Yes.
circles, the telegraphs,
Yeah.
and also the tokens.
Hmm.
But there's another game where the devs are like, here's our awesome core, but you gotta group and raid to do anything worthwhile in our game too. I'm like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah, there was that. I love the characters. I love the combat because again, it was basically WildStar's combat was Guild Wars 2 version 2. It
The
was the upgrade.
the hottest bunny girls I've ever seen.
Yeah, yes it did. And I mean, I loved their base building, the area they gave you, until I realized that to do anything, even when you bought something, you didn't own it. You had to buy it again. So, oh, I felt like a Starscape today. Oh, okay, that was 20 gold. Okay, well, today I feel like the sun. 20 gold. Okay, let's go back to the Starscape. Give me another 20 gold. It's like, guys, come on. When I buy this stuff, I shouldn't have to keep on buying it. Like, I loved building the bases in your home area, but it was another form of nickel and diming and microtransactions.
There's something innately exploitative about MMOs.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you can't play and enjoy them. Fuck,
Oh,
I
sure.
mean, I do. Like, I play a lot of games that I know are evil at their core.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch a lot of Disney things from a company that it's evil at its core. Let's not kid ourselves about their evil. Let's enjoy their content while not losing our grip on reality is all.
Yes. Yes.
What's our next topic?
We're topicless.
Well, I can't think of a better way for us to end this than by me finding more words that they banned in past years.
Sounds good.
Let's go to the do we want to look by banished words by year or alphabetical?
Do it by year.
By year. Okay. Let's go to their website is god awful too. Jesus Christ. Let's look at their banned words for 2020. Lake Superior State University. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Artisanal. Chirp.
What?
Let's.
Whoa, hang on. Chirp?
This one is a new insult for the non-millennials on the committee. Before we get chirped for being out of touch, as our nominator suggests, why don't we leave it to the birds? So it's another thing that speaks to the truth of what you were saying of how these old out-of-touch fucking cronies just didn't understand how reality works, and they're dedicating entire parts of their fucking post-secondary institution towards bad political cartoons in word form.
Ugh, okay.
Curated. I mean,
Really?
which one?
Curated is banned? Like that's
They say in. Oh, I shouldn't have done this because this is making me mad again. Like artisanal, this seems to be another attempt at making something more than it is. I'm not going to read any more of that because I'm going to punch my monitor.
okay.
I mean, influencer. Jelly. Oh, we are going to look that up. You know it's not the food. It's the
Yeah.
abbreviation of jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, living my best life. Mouthfeel. Okay, boomer. Quid pro quo.
And you know they didn't like okay boomer because it basically again described them.
This phrase caught on late this year on the internet as a response from millennials to the older generation. Boomers may remember, however, that generational tension is always present. In fact, it was the boomers who gave us the declaration, don't trust anyone over 30. Yeah, okay, boomer, shut the fuck up. Quid pro quo.
What?
Totes. And vibe/vibe check.
Uh
2019, we have accoutrement.
what's that?
It's the accoutrement of a thing, or like it's accompaniments like in a dish.
Okay.
Hard to spell, not scientific, and anachronistic when accessories will do. That's the reason they gave. No, that is idiotic and a little bit racist. Collusion. Oh yeah. Crusty. Eschew. Ghosting. Grapple.
Whoa,
Importantly.
hang on. What? Grapple and importantly?
Oh, please let this be someone who got beat by Zangief and is mad. People who struggle with ideas and issues now grapple with them. I prefer to grapple with a wrestler or an overgrown tree.
Ugh.
I want to shit in this person's face. Importantly is on the list because it's totally unnecessary when important is sufficient. More importantly, which was banned in 1992, they point out, apparently sounds more important but is also senseless. That entire paragraph is nonsense.
Yep.
In the books, legally drunk, litigate, most important election of our time. If there was a term I was going to agree with, it might be that one. Optics, the Otis family of acronyms such as POTUS, FLOTUS, or SCOTUS. Platform, thought leader, wheelhouse, wrap my head around, and perhaps the funniest one as of yet, yeet.
Oh
The
my
reasoning here is if I hear one more freshman say yeet, I might just yeet myself out a window. And if they said that to me in person, I'd be like, do you promise? I'm going to read only one more years because I'm getting really upset about this. 2018, we have covfefe. That bullshit word Donald Trump said.
Yeah.
Dish. Drilled.
Okay. Hang on. Why dish?
As in to dish out on the latest rumor on someone. Let's go back to talks about and leave dishes in the cupboard. I think that if anyone ever says those words in real life, you should be allowed to slap them.
Mm-hmm.
Drill down. Fake news. Gig economy. Why did they say that? Oh, It's not for the good reason that gig economy is exploitative. It's because gigs are for musicians, Dave. Hot water heater.
What?
Hot water
Why?
does not need to be heated, Dave. It's a water heater or a hot water maker. And that'll keep you out of hot water.
Now I'm getting angry.
Impactful. Let me ask you this. Let that sink in. Nothing burger, all one word. Onboarding and offboarding. Pre-owned.
I want to know the reason for onboarding and offboarding.
Creature from the HR Lagoon, which I assume mean this is a very wordy. Again, this is an actual paid writer who actually knows what they're talking about. Lake Superior State University. This phrase is bullshit. You should have said an HR term. Fuckface. We used to have hiring, training, and orientation. Now we need to have an onboarding process. Firings, quittings, and retirements are streamlined into offboarding. Now, I actually kind of understand the frustration with the words, but that doesn't mean that you ban them.
Yeah.
Pre-owned. Tons. And the last word I'm going to mention on this podcast, unpack. Again, if you were my students, you would get Fs. And you would fucking take them and like them.
Just
Also, this website is garbage. Like this, it's not quite a vintage 90s site, but it's also not a well-designed modern site either. It's very blue and yellow, and it's just not good. Like it's hurting my eyes just to look at it.
I'll bet the blue and yellow is probably their university colors.
Why did that make me mad? Why did that make me mad? Why did what you just said make me very upset that their university colors are blue and yellow? Folks, what do you think of banned words? Well, guess what? We're banning feedback.
Hey! No, we're not.
Fine.
We want the feedback.
You should leave. If you're watching us on YouTube, just leave us feedback in a YouTube comment. If you're watching this on our website, twofatguystalk.com or animerave.xyz, home of cars, just leave us a comment there where you found the video. You can also leave us a voicemail on that site, and we might just feature it in a future episode. Dave, I want you to name 3 words that are on your banned list for next year to end us off.
Pandemic, In This Together, and religion.
Now, the first 2 were already on their 2021 list. And the last one, I guess we'll talk about next time. Bye, folks.
Bye. Tune in next time.